Gatch is the new state representative for House District 94, which covers parts of Dorchester County. I speak exclusively with the state representative for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. State Representative Gil Gatch, welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Hey man, so glad to be here with you.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly. Obviously, you're a state representative, you're a husband, and of course, a notable attorney. And I want to rewind time to November because obviously you defeated your Democratic opponent, that is, Patricia Cannon, to become the next state representative for South Carolina House District 94, which covers parts of Charleston and Dorchester counties. And you defeated her 61-38, I believe. 61-38 tells you what, state representative?
Well, it was enough to win, so that was good. It was an unusual election, as you know, because of the COVID response, the election, the voting that took place before Election Day, the mail-in ballots. In fact, I'm sure you're well aware that in Dorchester County, on the evening of Election Day, we realized that there had been some issues with the scanning of the mail-in ballots. I think there may have been 13,000 or so mail-in ballots that were yet to be scanned because the way it was printed, something was the matter. But the election commission here in Dorchester County, they got it taken care of really quick. So it was a little nerve-wracking, I guess, but all those little elements just made it an unusual day. It was my first election, so I didn't know really what to expect. It was kind of new to me all around. But as far as 61-38 goes, I mean, I was very happy with that. It seemed like we had a great turnout, and I was just honored to be able to be chosen by the people of Summerville to represent them in Columbia at the State House.
Now, you talk about your first election. What did you exactly learn from your first election?
You know, I learned, I've worked on elections before, but in previous years, you know, we were hitting the streets, we're knocking on doors. Those hot June days for the primary, you know, we are sweating, we're getting blisters on our feet, and we're talking to people. And I love that. I love talking to folks. I love meeting people that I've never met before and talking to them, hearing their concerns, what is most important to them, what was like really passionate in their hearts. But that was a little different, as you know, this year. We didn't really do the ground game, so to speak. We didn't go door to door really, because we were concerned about you know, the infection of COVID, coronavirus, and those types of things. So you know, we used a lot of social media. You know, we used a lot of mailers. You know, we tried to get the word out about our campaign through other ways. You know, I hope that things one day, you know, in the next election come around to where we can go back and meet people face to face, because I just don't know if there's anything that substitutes that personal connection that you get with someone when you get to see them and hear them and just kind of, you know, feel the room in a way, you know, with people who you're with one-on-one. It's not the same trying to do it virtually or through Facebook posts and things like that.
How are you personally connecting with the constituents right now?
Well, doing a lot of, again, social media. We're doing, again, mailers, trying to listen to what people are saying. There's a lot of concerns over, you know, the Dorchester school district, you know, people who have kids in public school or teachers who are teachers in public school. What are we going to do? So I'm listening to those folks in the different forums on Facebook. I'm reading people's comments and commentaries and opinion pieces. So I'm talking to people on the phone, as you can imagine, a lot of phone calls and texts about what is it that you're thinking about? What is it that concerns you? You're a parent. Tell me what you're feeling. You know, how is this affecting you?
Yes, indeed. And obviously, I know it's only what so much you can do because you're just a state representative. But if you could sit down one-on-one with a representative from the Dorchester District 2 school board, what would you tell them right now?
Well, I'd be asking them a lot more questions, I think, than what I'd be telling them. You know, I'm curious. I know that we have a really well-known private school in our area, and they are meeting face-to-face. And I have friends who have children who are in private school, and they're very happy about, you know, the in-person learning. I also know people who have kids in Dorchester District 2 schools, and they're concerned. They're concerned about getting grandmother sick. They're concerned about contracting the virus. I have lots of friends who are teachers. My mother is still teaching right now. She's conducting virtual learning at Oak Brook Elementary. And so there's a lot of people who have a lot of really important and valuable opinions. I'd be wanting to ask those Dorchester school board members, what are they hearing? Since they're the ones who are right there in the thick of it, what is all the information saying to them? Apparently, they feel, I believe the vote is to keep the virtual learning going. I know that was a difficult decision for them. And I think it's really hard, Quintin, honestly, because, there are people who have the means to do the or the virtual learning. Let's say a mom and dad who the mom can stay home or the dad can stay home. There's a little bit of a different dynamic there with being able to give that attention towards the child than perhaps some of the people who maybe they're single mothers or single fathers, and they're working and they're essential, so they're out and they're trying to figure out how to juggle, and they can't put their kid into private school. So this is really hard. I mean, there aren't any really perfect answers, I don't think, but I think everyone's doing the best that they can do to be sensitive to the hearts of the constituents and to be super sensitive to what we know that the virus can do, with being infecting people and people, if not just being really sick, passing away. So it's difficult. It's very hard.
And I know, obviously, I believe you all are going back up to Columbia on January 12th.
Yes, sir.
What exactly do you want to push for as a bill to make certain that, you get both sides of the world when it comes to learning?
Yeah, absolutely. My first weeks and months and maybe this whole first year, I'm going to be a sponge. I am going to be learning everything I can learn, and I'm going to be trying to make as many relationships as possible. We had a really great freshman class, and the relationships that we've made already in the short time that we've known each other and the few days that we spent together, I mean, you can already tell Republicans and Democrats, the bonds are strong. I mean, we really like each other. You can tell it's not just show. We like each other. And so I think that continuing to cultivate those relationships and to try to make those strong relationships across the aisle with the folks who have been there for a long time as well, I think that's what I'm focusing on. I have so much more to learn first than I have to tell people what I know. I'm here to learn. I definitely going to represent the good people of Summerville, but I won't be able to do that quite the way I should unless I can make those relationships with those people who have been there, and then I can learn all of the parliamentary things, all the ways that you speaking and at the well and all of that. That's what I'm going to be focused on first. I don't want to put the wrong foot forward, if you know what I mean.
Now, I know you only been up there a couple of days in the past, but what type of relationships have you formed so far?
Well, I think really, really great ones. The speaker was so kind and gracious to meet with us. He's always available to meet one-on-one if we have any concerns. Some of the other leadership on both sides, majority and minority leaders on both sides, they have been very, very kind. There hasn't been one odd or awkward interaction that I've had with a single person, no matter how old they are or what side of the aisle they're on. Everybody's been so kind. So I'm really excited. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. You see the division stuff all over the news. It seems like everything is so partisan and there's all this conflict. I didn't feel, I'm sure that'll change. I'm sure there will be times where, there will be good arguments. There will be people who are, coming against each other with debates and things like that. But as of right now, I'm just so encouraged by what we can accomplish because of what I've seen, the energy and sort of just the spirit of everybody up there. It seems like it's really just fertile ground to do a lot of really great things. So I'm excited. And I think everyone else should be excited too. I mean, I am an optimistic person, but I think that we've got a lot of really great things that we can do this year.
What exactly do you want to accomplish for District 94?
Well, I feel like with our district personally in Summerville, we have a lot of issues with roads, infrastructure. I know that we also, when we started thinking about what's really important to District 94, we started in, late 2019, early January, maybe thinking about what are the issues. Well, so much changed. I mean, the virus came and everything sort of shifted. Now, we have so many small business owners. We're trying to figure out how to keep people alive and afloat and doing it in a safe way, but kind of keeping, I mean, I have so many small business owner friends. So, some of them are like on the razor's edge. It's a day-to-day, month-to-month, trying to make ends meet kind of a thing. I'd read in the paper that there looks like there's going to be some aid that the federal government is going to give, which would be really, really great. We need to really focus on how to keep the core of so much about what makes Summerville. And I know that there's a lot of other cities and towns that are this way too. It's those small businesses that are so key to, you know, the uniqueness of the town. We don't want those guys going under. So that's something that we're going to really focus on.
What type of aid do you want the state to give to these small business owners?
I mean, what type of aid? I guess the kind that you can spend and as much of it as you possibly can. I mean, that's what I want to say. I know it's not quite as simple as that. That's a part of the learning that I'm going to have to undergo some of the learning. I know that as much as we can give that makes sense, I know that I'm sure that's what's going to happen. But again, I don't know. There's all these other elements that, you know, take the money, or the money is allocated, or it's already been promised in this area or that area to make, you know, the world work in South Carolina. I have no idea exactly where that is yet, but I'm going to learn. And I know that the leadership, and I know that the parties are going to come together, and whatever it is that they can do, whatever they can possibly do, I'm sure that they're going to do it, because their people are hurting all over the state, just like we are, the small businesses in Summerville and others as well.
Talk about those small businesses. How many small businesses have actually closed since COVID?
Well, you know, the numbers, it's hard to know what the number is exactly, but we know that, you know, it's affecting different people differently, right? So depending on the age, depending on even your economic background, even I think race plays a part in this. We know that it's unfortunately predominantly Black business owners are being affected higher as well. And I think that it's 3/4, if I'm not mistaken, of those businesses aren't expected to open again. It's a lot. And, you know, when you go look downtown, I'm sure you've been downtown, you've seen a lot of your favorite places. I heard Mellow Mushroom. That was one of my favorite places when I was downtown. And, you know, right behind you. I was right behind you. You know, I'm like, you know, I'm glad Chase Bank got it, but I'm thinking, man, you know, Mellow Mushroom's a special place. You know, that's upstairs. You could watch a game. You could sit at the bar. You know, you could, you know, chat to the people next to you. Now it's a bank. I mean, we don't want that to happen. You know, we want to try to keep that bleeding from going on anymore. There's a lot of that going on right now.
And you talk about those Black businesses. How many are there in Summerville right now?
I don't know what the exact numbers, but we have quite a few. I mean, we have a thriving culture here. There have been businesses and barbershops, little places that have been on. You've been on Hutchinson Square. There are places that have been there for ages, and we don't to think that those businesses would go away. I mean, that is part of the landscape that makes Summerville. We got to make sure that doesn't happen.
And let me go back to what you said a couple of months ago. You said this quote: "Whether as a pastor or now in law, I have been fueled by a desire for service." What will your service look like in Columbia?
What will my service look like? Well, I think transparency and accountability is the beginning of it. We don't want folks to look at politicians or a political system and to feel that they can't trust the system or the people. You know, I think there's a lot of, especially recently after the election, there's a lot of people who are, can we trust the system? Is it something that we can put faith in? I want to help people say yes. I look at Gil and the way that he conducts himself, you know, and I believe him. I trust him. I think that he is going to explain to me the way the system works. He's not going to hide the ball. He's going to, if he can explain it to me and teach me how this thing works that I'm confused about, I can call him. I can email him. He's going to explain it to me. He's going to be very open about the process. I want to, if I vote on something, I want to explain the good parts that I liked and the things that I didn't like and why I'm either voting for it or why I'm voting against it. I think all of those types of actions make people regain their confidence in not only the leader in the State House, but also in the process happening at the State House. That's really where my focus, I think, is going to be when I think about service. I really want to help folks regain the confidence that either maybe they once had or even strengthen the confidence that they have now.
What is that process right now?
The process of what exactly?
what you just mentioned about learning about those bills and, you know.
Yeah, man, it's I mean, it's just like that. I mean, it's trying to, I get emails. As soon as I, got sworn in, it was like, bam, I started getting emails and emails and emails, and I'm going through them, reading about the bills that we're going to be voting on. There's a couple that are going to be really big deals that I got to learn about. I understand what the sort of what the overarching sort of like the surface level stuff is, but as the devil's in the details so often with these bills. They seem like one thing on the top, but then the fine print is something else. And I don't want to make a decision. I don't want to accidentally vote for something that I didn't really understand. So the process, to answer your question, is to read it, to understand it. I'm lucky to be a lawyer, so I've had to read lots of legislation. So that's not foreign to me. I think that's one good thing about lawyers in the legislature, is that we're used to reading laws, and as you know, they're not written like normal. It's not like one of the books. The laws are written like, I don't know, lawyerish. I don't know, some different language that we all know how to read. I'm going to get into the weeds, and that's what the process looks like. And then, like I said, back to the point of transparency, explaining, hey guys, this bill, it says this, but don't forget down here towards the bottom, there's this. That kind of stuff. I think people I really appreciate it. It goes a long way.
Goes a long way. How transparent are you right now?
Well, I mean, about what like just today, right now, I feel pretty transparent. This is a black coffee. I'm drinking out of a. I don't know.
No, how transparent are you with your constituents in District 94?
As 100% as I possibly can be.
Okay.
People. I have a law office on Trolley Road. And it's also where people meet me to talk about constituent issues, and they'll ask me a question, and I'll give them the answer as possibly as good as I know it. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you, look, I mean, I have no idea, but I'll figure it out. I mean, I can find out where to find the answer to that. I can locate the answers for you. But as far as how transparent I am, I mean, I guess the proof will just have to be in the pudding. If what I say is I say the thing, my words are my words, I do what I say I'm going to do, that kind of a thing. I think that's what transparency is. I think that describes me.
And you also said this too. I see this position as a way to extend that service deeper into the community. That deeply held commitment to service has been a core value in my entire life that was instilled in me by my parents.
Yeah.
What core values do you want to uphold in the State House?
Sure. I mean, not to make it overly simple, but I think integrity is something that people are encouraged by, and that people, it's like their trust factor. When you see somebody who says a thing and then they do the thing, or if they say a thing and then they don't do that thing that they explain exactly why, that trust factor, it grows. And that's, I think, what we need as political leaders. We need political leaders who somebody can look at them, they can see what they say, they can see how they vote, and it makes sense. They're like, this person is what they say they are. I interned for Senator Scott in DC, and I feel like that really describes him more than any of the other politicians perhaps that I've ever met. What you see is what you get with him. It's so easy. It's like you don't have to figure it out with him. Like, what you see is what you get. And I want to be that kind of person. I want people to see, integrity when they see me. Like, yeah, Gil, he's simple. He's just going to tell you. He's going to explain it to you. I think that's kind of where I am with that. That's serving the community. And like you said, my parents did instill service into me when I was a kid, and that's really kind of how I've tried to do my life. I've failed, I'm sure, many times, but that's ultimately where I always come back to, is trying to help people. If it's not in my law office, in politics, just my friends and family, I think that if we're all doing that, we're going to get a long way, if we're all kind of pulling our weight a little bit. So I hope that I do that.
And you talk obviously about bills in this particular interview. What pre-bills have you filed thus far in the State House? I
have not filed any pre-bills yet. Like I said, can you imagine if I filed a pre-bill yet? I mean, maybe some of the freshmen are doing that, and that's great. But I'm trying to figure out, like, I want to figure this process out first before I start trying to, like, it's like practice. You don't play in the game before you put in hours of practice. Before I start, asking to be put in the game, I want to know how this process works. I want to really get my head wrapped around it. And that's where I am right now. I mean, it's December 17th today, 2020.
Right.
We haven't even started session in January. I'm sure as we get going, I've got some ideas, I think, but before I even start entertaining those things, I want to start learning from those people who have been there. There's some really great people who have been there for years. I'm trying to soak up everything I can from those people so that I can be the best legislator that I can be.
Let me turn to COVID again, because this is coming from WCIB, and it reads this in an article, quote, since the beginning of the pandemic, state lawmakers have been pushing for a workers' compensation bill, and they're still pushing for it. And this is coming from State Representative Russell Fry. He says this, quote, those first responders have been with us through thick and thin, having been helping us in our communities across the state and in circumstances where they need help. We need to put them and put the best foot forward. If a first responder gets ill with COVID, let me ask you this too, State Representative, due to work-related exposure, how should they be covered by the workers' compensation?
That's a good question. I think that I agree with this statement wholeheartedly, that we need to take care of our first responders, the people who are, in a sense, on the front lines with the virus. We need to respond and figure out how to help them. I'd like to know what is the current state of affairs. How is it affecting them right now? What Mr. Fry is referring to, I'd like to know what he's seeing, because he's obviously seen something, and he's responding to what he's being given, the information, the facts, the data that he's being given. He's responding with that. I'd like to see what he's seeing and what he's gotten to look at. But I totally agree. We need to do something. I mean, we have to help the first responders. They've been smacked, right in the face with COVID. And what happens if they are unable to work due to the virus? I mean, that's a great question. I think we should be able to do something. Now, as far as the bill that you said he pre-filed that bill.
I believe so. Yes.
So,
sir.
yeah, I haven't read it yet, and I'd love to read it. But as far as the sentiment goes of taking care of our first responders, I mean, absolutely, without a doubt.
And I know this is coming also from the Vice President of the Professionals Firefighters Association in South Carolina, William Pestor. He said this, quote, these people have been going to work since March and this stuff. How many people have lost time that have been, obviously should be compensated due workers' comp? And let me ask you this. How should the workers be compensated due to workers' compensation?
How should they be compensated?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think, I'm sure there's an array of ways, but I think that, compensating them for the time that they've missed being at work, if they're unable to work, and we're talking about, taking somebody and making them whole, I think that we need to be looking at, financial compensation. But, again, I don't know what the bill is proposing. I definitely want to look at it before I, try to get too deep into the weeds about something that I'm unsure about. But I mean, as far as compensation goes, I mean, yeah, I mean, I would imagine that the number one thing that somebody would want would be financial compensation. I mean, to make them whole if they're unable to work.
Yes, sir. And I know you're probably unsure about this, but let me just ask the question anyways.
Sure.
How many first responders in your district have lost time in compensation since March?
That's a good question. I do not know. I mean, I know that we have a strong police and fire department here, and other first responders. They are, I think, the best. Obviously, I'm a little biased. They have been going out of the way. We had a young girl who was killed in her house in a drive-by, and they, even throughout COVID, have been trying to find the culprit. They've been putting out on the wire. We raised, I think it was $13,000. I got some people lucky enough to have some people be included in the money, the reward that we would offer if we found the person or information to lead us to the person who did this. But they're going. I mean, they're the best. I mean, they're busting it despite having the challenges. But as far as how many exactly, the number, I do not know. I do not know that number.
You want equitable education funding. You hear about traffic. What are those other issues that you're hearing about from your constituents?
You mean other than the traffic and the infrastructure and the equitable education fund? I mean,
yes.
Right now everything has been COVID focused. I mean, like everything is. We had a wonderful member of our community passed away due to COVID complications. Again, friends of mine who have been concerned about their children, what it's doing to them psychologically. They feel like, I don't know if you are, you probably aren't connected to this element of it, but the kid scientists, psychologists, and pediatricians, they're very concerned at what's happening to people, the children, because of COVID. We've got the small business owners who, some of them can't stay open. So with people passing away, getting sick, the children, small businesses, I mean, it's an array of things. It's very, very, it's very concerning, and they're all really kind of connected to the single factor of COVID. I mean, equitable education, that's something that we definitely need to get straight. But it's hard to get equitable education funding straight when now we've got a whole other funding issue with regards to what the budget is going to look like with now that COVID has made its impact this year. So we're going to have to address that. But there are other issues, I'm sure. I'm trying to think of anything other than COVID. COVID is just really, COVID has just overwhelmed us. I mean, everything that we can think of right now that's been a concern is somehow connected, for the most part, as I can remember, to the virus.
Now, you obviously talked about equitable education funding. That is, how much would that be ideally from a financial standpoint?
Yeah, the equitable education funding, goes into the whole Act 388 situation, which is I've had the experts explain it to me, and it's still confusing. So try to wrap your head around that, and all you experts out there on Act 388, you give me a call. But the issue with regards to how the formula funds schools and how many kids are in seats at schools. Now, right now, of course, it's a little different because the kids, aren't in school, but certain counties, especially Dorchester District 2,
Sure.
They're getting really shortchanged on the formula. And it wasn't something I don't believe that people could have seen in the beginning when it was voted on. But now that we've seen it, the monster sort of reared its ugly head. And there's certain people who are getting the short end of the stick. I know that the teachers and the students and the parents, that's something that we want to have addressed, because we have some of the best. I mean, for what the money that we have in Dorchester District 2 and what we do with it, I think we have the best teachers on the planet. Again, my mother has been one for 38 years, and I might be a little biased, and that's but still, we have the best teachers, and trying to get that the tax formula worked out to where Dorchester District 2 is not getting the short end of the stick, I think is definitely something we're trying to work on.
And what was that formula that was confusing in the beginning?
Yeah, it's like you figure you're gonna have to figure it out for me, because it's that confusing. It's the Act 388 formula with. I mean, we should talk about this on off record, but it's basically how districts, groups of when we have a bedroom district, you have not a lot of businesses and you have more houses and primary residents. The way that the millage gets rung up and how that gets distributed, it became unequitable. It became sort of really unequal, and sort of districts. I think there's another district in Rock Hill based upon sort of the way that where the businesses and the houses are and how they're similar to Dorchester District 2, they're also kind of getting sort of the short end of the tax stick, if you will. So, but we can talk more about that later, and we can, bring in all the geniuses on the Act 388 tax code and the tax rules, and we can, come up with maybe have a cup of coffee and come up with a solution together.
What is that tax millage for your district right now?
I'd have to look that up again. I don't have that, I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but yeah, I'd have to. I'm sorry, I don't know what the tax millage is right now. I know there's a couple of people that I'm thinking of right now that if I had beside me, they would know exactly, because they do that every single day. But I don't know what the tax millage is right now. Do you know what it is right now?
Oh, I mean, I get tax.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either. So, but I can look that up. Yeah.
Let's stay on COVID, because sure. Let me ask you this: testing versus infection. How many testing cases are there in your district, and how many are actually infection cases?
I was just looking. If I had known you were going to ask me numbers, I would have pulled up all my numbers. I know that Dorchester County right now is high compared to other counties, and I think that's one of the reasons why the school district was concerned in reopening, is because when you're looking at the exact numbers, that it's where Dorchester County looks like our infection rate is going up pretty quickly. So that was, I know, a concern for them when they made that vote the other day.
And what's the average age of people in your district that with infections, and is that average getting lower?
God, I don't think that it's getting lower. I mean, the last time that I checked, I was looking at CDC numbers, though. I wasn't looking just at District 94 numbers.
Right.
But it seems like I think this is still right. 8 or almost 8 out of 10 people who pass away from COVID, it might be just close to 8 out of 10 or 65 and above age, and then about 95 or 96% of everybody who succumbs to COVID complications have an average of several other sicknesses like diabetes, hypertension, heart, lung disorders, things like that. So we know it seems like the science is clear on several things, and a couple of those things is definitely if you're above the age of 65, you're more at risk, much more at risk if you're older. And if you have some combination of things like diabetes, hypertension, etc., that is also going to put you at a much higher risk level. So take the precautions, especially if you qualify in either one of those groups, or if you're in a cross of those groups, to be very, very, very careful, because that apparently is what those people suffer the worst symptoms and are most likely to suffer life-ending complications because of COVID.
And speaking of COVID, with the COVID situation that is affecting the state economy so badly, how has it affected sales tax revenues in your district that's needed really to fund transportation and other major projects?
Well, I don't know exactly yet. I don't know if we've gotten the reports on how sales tax revenues have been affected. I think that, if you've been out doing any type of Christmas shopping, at least in our neck of the woods, it doesn't seem like the shops are empty. It seems like the shops are thriving. My wife was running some errands for us because we were going to spend some time with family, of course, being careful and all that. Right. And she tried to get through the lines, and she was calling me. She's like, "This line is around the building." So I was like, "Well, that's a good sign in a way that people are still feeling confident to spend their money." So I feel like that'll be. I couldn't tell you, last year's numbers compared to this year's numbers yet, but I feel it's going to be. It's not going to be great, but I still feel that when you're looking out and you're looking at the landscape, it does seem like people are still feeling confident enough to go spend some money on holiday shopping.
And you talk about confidence. You know this more than anybody else living in Summerville, that Summerville is the place to live right now.
We love it.
Oh, yes, indeed. And how could you assure growth with smart growth?
Yeah, I mean, that's really important because, I am a lover of nature, and South Carolina's unique. I mean, we have such beautiful landscapes, trees, wildlife, animals, trees, flowers. We're called Flower Town. Right. We have azaleas in our yard that I think are from the 40s. I mean, they are twice as tall as I am. They're enormous. We have to be very careful not to just, wipe everything out and just raise a bunch of buildings, build a bunch of buildings. There is always going to be a delicate balance between conservation and development. Right now, we're seeing a lot of development out in the Cane Bay area in Berkeley County, which is north of my district, and also in the Nexton area. Lots of growth out there, but I think that it seems like they're doing a great job. People are being very careful of, when you wipe the trees out to build a building, there's going to be drainage issues and flooding issues. And, flooding is such a serious problem in our neck of the woods. But the homework is being done as far as that I understand it. People are being careful. And I'm all eager for growth to happen, just so long as we do it in a smart way that doesn't destroy anything that are those beautiful treasures of our South Carolina low country wildlife, so long as we're being very, very careful. Because once you cut down a tree, you can't just go buy another one to replace it. I mean, sure, you can plant another tree, but, a tree that's been there for 200 years. I mean, we have 200, 300-year-old trees around here in Summerville. You can't just go to the store to replace that. So we want to be careful, when we're expanding, that we're being very kind to our treasures, because people come to the low country, as you know, because of how beautiful it is. We get rid of all those treasures, we're going to see impacts in lots of ways that'll be negative. So yeah, I'm very keen on that. We've got to do that very carefully.
Now, what incentives do you want the developers to bring into your district?
Well, I mean, I'm unsure as of what do what we have now. The incentives that we have now, are they seem like they're working. I don't know if we need to continue to incentivize or not. Obviously, tax breaks are very, very important. I know that there's impact fees that, and I'm not a developer, so I don't know how all this works, but I know that you can be that the different municipalities. Oh, I just lost you. Are you still there?
Oh, yes, sir. I'm still here.
Oh no.
I'm here.
There you are. Okay, there you are.
I can hear you.
So yeah, different municipalities do it different ways. I'm not an expert on that. I mean,
Sure.
But I want to incentivize development so long as it's smart. That it has to be smart. And when I think of smart, I think of making sure that we take care of and protect, our beautiful wildlife and the treasures that make our part of the country and the part of the world so unique. So that's where my heart is on that. As far as like the numbers and all of the how-tos and stuff, what municipalities are currently doing to incentivize, I don't know the ins and outs of those right now, but I'm eager to learn, so long as we do it in a safe way that protects our wildlife.
And you talk about numbers. What's your comprehensive plan for economic inclusion in District 94?
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, what is your plan for economic inclusion, diversity with the economy?
Yeah, so when you say diversity with the economy, help me understand. So,
yes, sir. Let's talk about this Black-owned businesses. How many of those do you want to bring back into the? We talked about that earlier, but how many more of those businesses do you want to bring into the district?
Well, I mean, the more the merrier. I'm concerned that the COVID impact affected Black-owned businesses significantly, and it is projected that I believe it's 3 out of 4 of the businesses that have closed their doors now, and this is particular, I believe, to Black-owned businesses, will not reopen. That's a huge concern. I think that stimulus money can help, definitely, and I think we just saw in the news this morning that Congress is inching closer to I think it's like a 900. Is it 900? What, I think I have it right here. How much? It was a lot of money. Where is it? It was. I don't want to get the number wrong. Well, I can't find it, but inching closer. I think it was. I wanted to say 900 billion. I think it was a big number. But they're inching closer to that aid, and so that will go a long way. But as far as diversity, I mean, come to Summerville. I mean, we are a very diverse community, and I think that people of the community love each other and do business with each other, regardless of which part of the world they come from, age, race, background. I mean, we have a great public works, Summerville Dream and public works. We have this wonderful art place here that used to be the old CPW building that before it was CPW was the old years ago, before I was born, the old post office, I believe. And there are community events that take place on certain Thursdays of the month, and people go in and people buy the artwork, and we celebrate artists. I mean, and artists of all colors and backgrounds. It's wonderful. Summerville's a really great town. We celebrate each other here. I think that to continue just to be who we are is going to go a long way. And as far as bringing back those businesses that have gone under. I believe that the stimulus money will go a long way to do that.
And how many more jobs do you want to bring to District 94?
Well, gosh, I mean, the more jobs, the better. Usually, if we can bring smart jobs here where people can to make a living. I mean, I want to bring more jobs, Quintin. I'm always about so long as it's smart. I don't want to talk like I'm an expert on certain things that I don't know the ins and outs of. Like I know that with Volvo, Mercedes-Benz vans, we've got a lot of really great places near my district that are providing lots of wonderful jobs. The Walmart distribution center that's coming just got announced, I think, a couple of weeks ago. That's going to be a wonderful job provider near our district. So all these are really, really great opportunities for us. They're going to bring people in to the area, and then they're going to bring business in to downtown Summerville and surrounding areas. And I think that's going to be a really positive thing.
You talked earlier about the virtual learning and all the controversy behind that. Let me ask you this. Should the state of South Carolina make internet a utility?
That'd be great, wouldn't it? That would be really, really great. I've heard a lot about the bringing the internet to parts of the state that currently there aren't being able to reach. I think that it's important to have internet access everywhere we possibly can. I was visited by somebody at my office, and that was her big problem. She was a single mom, and she was out in a sort of rural area, but she worked close to my office here on Charlie Road in Summerville. And it was really difficult for her because now her daughter had to ride with her, and they didn't have a good solution because she couldn't stay at home to do the learning because they didn't have internet access. But her work was giving her some problems, and she wasn't able to allow her daughter, to use the internet at work. So yeah, I think that would be really, really a great thing to have internet access for everybody because God forbid this ever happens again, but you're going to need internet access to get news, possibly to do school, So yeah, I mean, I think that I'd like to look into what it would mean making it a utility, but my heart is yes, that we need to give it, extend the range that people have to access the internet as far as we possibly can, especially in those rural areas in South Carolina.
And speaking of which, should fiber lines ever be placed in the rural areas of South Carolina?
Should fiber lines be?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I would like to say yes. I mean, I don't know what the downsides would be. What would the downsides be of putting fiber lines in rural areas? I don't know. Is it just a cost perspective? I'd have to look at that. I mean, I would like to say yes, because if it was all free and there was no downside to it, I mean, I think that would be a great idea, but I'd be curious on the impact to the environment. I'd be curious as to the economic impact, So yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic about it, but I'd like to get those questions ironed out first before I just say absolutely.
State Representative Gil Gatch, thank you so much for your time. And
yes,
again,
sir.
Welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
It's been a pleasure, Quintin. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.